Hey everybody, and welcome to my shop. Last week I made a video about building a plywood bookcase, and I used the technique called kerf bending to round the corners. And after publishing the video in the last week, I got a couple of messages and comments and questions about the kerf bending technique. So this week I want to make a dedicated video where I just explain the technique, which saws to use, what material works, which glue to use, and how to calculate the bends. When I want to tackle a new technique like I did last week, that was the first time I used kerf bending, I'd rather go to the shop and do a test piece rather than researching online for hours and getting lost in information. So I just want to tell you it's easier than it looks. So don't get discouraged. Just go to the shop and try it. First thing I want to talk about is the saws that you can use to do kerf bending. Let's start with the miter saw. While the miter saw is probably the most convenient saw to use for this, it also has its limitations, so be aware of the width that your miter saw can cut before planning to use it. And of course, your miter saw needs a depth stop. If you can't control the depth of your cut, you cannot cut a curve with this. But what you want to do is set the saw to a depth where it leaves a little bit of the ply. So with this plywood I was using, I tried to leave half of the last ply intact, and that turned out to be the right thickness for this material. But again, I don't know what you're working with. Do some tests before doing the whole piece. Next up is the table saw. And same thing as with the miter saw, the table saw has its limitations of what kind of dimensions of wood you can cut there. So think about this first before dedicating to the table saw. Same as with the miter saw, you set the blade to just leaving a tiny little bit of wood intact, and then you go ahead, cut all your curves, and this works pretty well too. If your project does not have the right dimensions for the table saw, let's jump to the last and, in my eyes, most versatile saw in general, and also in this case, the track saw. Again, your track saw needs to have depth control, otherwise you can't cut curves. But if your track saw has that, in my case it has this really cool fine dial, so it's very, very easy to set a very accurate depth. If your saw has that too, then you should be ready to go. And the track saw is awesome because there are no limitations for the material. You can cut curves into any dimension of wood. When it comes to materials, I had the best result with this high-grade Baltic birch plywood. I also tried a 3-layered plywood that's a bit cheaper. The results were okay, but I had some of my pieces crack in the process. Again, the fancy plywood worked the best. I also made some tests with solid wood, and that didn't work at all. It cracked on me and I couldn't get a nice even bend. So if you have any tips how to kerf bend solid wood, please let me know in the comments. Now to the question that I got the most: how do I calculate the bend? And again, I'd rather jump into the shop and do a quick test piece than getting lost in information online. But if you want to have the math, there are a lot of online calculators. Just look for kerf bending calculator and you will find websites that do all the math for you. If you're more like me and you just want to test things out, the general rule is the amount of curves set the arc length, and the distance between the curves sets the radius. So those are the two variables that you can play with to get different results. Now, last but not least, let's talk about glue. Obviously, you will need some kind of glue to glue up your curved curve. Okay? I saw a lot of people online using PU glue, which absolutely makes sense because the glue expands. It expands into the little curves, and that way it should be a much stronger connection. But I also wanted to use regular wood glue just because I don't like the PU glue, because it's messy, it gives you less time for the glue up, and it's also more expensive. So I did two pieces, one with the regular wood glue and one with the PU glue. And then I did a little stress test that absolutely surprised me. See this coming, but I am relieved because, as I said, I don't like the PU glue. I am happy that I can proceed with regular wood glue. I hope I could answer all of the questions that you had. I hope this video was helpful to you. Before I go, I want to thank my partners, friends and sponsors that help me keep all of this going. So if you want to learn more about the companies that I work with, check out the links in my description. And most of all, I want to thank you guys for watching. And I will see you next week with a new video. But one more thing that I want to say is, if you like this more tutorial and in-depth content, please let me know if I should do more of these videos. And also, if you haven't subscribed and you kind of like the video and kind of want to be notified if I upload a new video, please consider subscribing. In any case, thank you for watching this one, and I will see you next week with a new video. Bye.